welcome to today's panel, The Unobvious Opportunity in EdTech. We have with us an exciting panel who bring with them a wealth of experience and insight that will share with us more about the unobvious opportunities in EdTech. Maybe before we start, can we do a quick round of introduction to talk a little bit more about your product, your target segment, and also your business model?
Test. Hi everyone, my name is Evan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Zenith Learning Group. What the Zenith Learning Group is a collective of companies focusing on the education market in Singapore specifically. So what we're best known for is we offer offline tutoring services to secondary school and junior college students in Singapore. About 20% of all junior college students in Singapore actually attend Zenith for lessons for their preparations for their university entrance exams. On top of that, we also have an edtech arm known as Zenith Education Technologies, trying to build our vision of the future of education, pushing forward data-driven, hybridized learning. Yep.
Hi everyone, I'm Prerna Jhunjhunwala. I run Creative Galileo, which is India's largest early learning platform. We have over 10 million users on our platform, and we are excited about the growth story in EdTech.
Hello, my name is Pham. Like number two, right? So now I'm running Prep, and I've been running Prep for like 4 years now. Prep focuses on language learning and test preparation. So our model is actually pretty simple. It's like Udemy. All of you know Udemy, plus a lot of AIs. So we use AIs to kind of like help teachers practice a lot, right? Because we know that language learning or test preparation could not be done successfully without lots and lots of practice, and students need a lot of interaction, right? So that's what we are doing. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Neo. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Geniebook. So Geniebook provides students with what they need through personalization, using innovation and AI. So since 2017, we have been you are harnessing the power of AI to personalize the content for students. And we have our smart question bank, we have our live classes, and we also have our Genie Ask, which is a real-time question and answer that the parents and students can post questions to. So recently I've expanded into our hybrid model. So in Singapore, we have 4 centers now. So from a completely offline, my background is that I did offline centers, then moved completely online, and now we are reintegrating back the whole experience of the online merge, offline education learning outcomes for students. And we also, our second largest market is in Vietnam. So very familiar with TOO's product, doing really well, really love their product as well. So happy to see what are the questions and have discussion as well.
Thank you. So Southeast Asia is an obvious market for EdTech given its favorable demographics. With over 25% of its population, or 170 million under the age of 19, this region presents a market opportunity of at least $11 billion. And EdTech has also proven itself to be able to democratize access of quality education, especially to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities where good teachers are scarce. Now, Prerna, can you also elaborate what are some of the unobvious nuances in this market, and how is it an opportunity for us?
So I think I'm going to start with what you just said. Asia in itself, 28% of the Asian population is actually aged below 19. We have close to 1.7 billion people who are below the age of 19 across Pakistan, India, China, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and other countries in this region. And with the penetration of smartphones, data becoming cheaper, access in Tier 1, Tier 2 cities is going deeper and deeper. And these are the questions you already addressed. And these also are the driving factors for the rise in demand. Not just that, the government is started to focus on the importance of education all the way from primary to tertiary. What it does is that the governments are starting to realize that we need to build on the digital infrastructure. Singapore has come up with a Master EdTech program 2030. Philippines has come up with the Digital Rise program. India has come up with the National Education Policy. All of them focusing heavily on EdTech as a next growth that the revolution that will happen in the education industry. And on top of that, there are certain benefits that only EdTech can give. The scalability that can come from EdTech, the cost efficiency, the productivity and the productivity and efficiency in the classroom with a teacher, and inclusivity for specially abled children. All these benefits that EdTech bring, it's not just a revenue generating business, but a huge social impact that we are creating in this world with EdTech.
Thank you, Prerna. I hear you that the market is huge, especially if we also include India, but what happened there?
Okay, what happened in India EdTech market? India EdTech market, I think it holds a lot of promise. I think that it has shown its resilience. As recently as March, 100 million value at 125 million was raised by Lead School. 1 billion debut was done by Physicswala at a valuation of $1 billion. Then there was another very big deal that happened, which was Allen $800 million. But unfortunately, right now, because of media, everyone talks of Indian EdTech market synonymous to Byju's. And it's not necessarily the whole story. Let's talk about Byju's. What happened in 2022? Byju's was given a valuation of $22 billion when it was making a loss of $750 million per year. Its revenue was only $450 million, which means it was valued at 52x of the actual revenue that it was making. There was financial mismanagement. There was this whole concept of growth at all cost. Investors were just throwing cheap money at Byju's, and because of which they were just able to expand very fast, make acquisitions which were $1 billion in Akash, $1 billion in Whitehand Junior. So there was a lot. They started to get the growth, but they actually did not have a cash efficient business. And when you include the funding winter that happened just post all these incidences for Byju's, I mean, a valuation correction was exactly in order. But then again, there was Enron that happened, there was Lehman Brothers that happened, there was BlackBerry that happened. Does that imply that these industries don't exist anymore in these markets? It does not mean that at all. EdTech is here to stay. India is a growth market is a huge growth market for EdTech, and I think those opportunities will speak for itself in time to come.
Got it. So what happens to one company doesn't represent the whole market. Now, I'd like to shift a little bit into some of the challenges that we also see in Southeast Asia. Earlier this year, one key player in Indonesia in the K-12 space has announced that it's closing its business. So, Evan, can you speak a little bit more what we can learn here, and what not so obvious opportunity do you see here?
Yeah, I think fundamentally the thesis when it comes to like an online standalone model that every company used to have, especially with the COVID boom, has changed quite drastically. I think in the past it was always a case of if we are able to continue to grow, we are able to okay. Yeah, I think in the past it used to be a case of there's this dream for edtech companies. If we are able to get to scale, we will be able to charge high prices, and then we can keep our acquisition costs low, especially if you're able to retain customers over time. And ultimately, there will be a very strong LTV to CAC ratio. There will be very strong margins for us to benefit in the long term. But I think with low barriers to entry, a lot of new competitors came in, and that really attacked both sides, whereby there was a price war that drove prices down. Saturation of competitors meant that your CAC went up, and ultimately the margins were squeezed thin. And then even at scale, a lot of these companies realized that this thesis that, once we are at like tens of millions of users, we'll be able to turn it into a profitable growth story. It evaporated overnight, and I think that's basically what happened in the case of Zenith. I mean, of course, there's a lot of other factors, but I think what a lot of companies are starting to realize is that offline merged online, as Neil pointed out, something that he's also focused on, is actually going to be the way moving forward. I think as was previously shared, right, there is a lot of benefits with edtech. I think that's something that's undeniable, that edtech brings along many different benefits to the various stakeholders, whether it's the students in terms of adaptive learning, in terms of personalization, in terms of continuous learning, whether it's the teachers in terms of increase productivity, reduce workload, or even the parents in terms of helping to get them more involved in the entire learning process of the kid. So the benefits of edtech, it's still there. It's just what is the correct business model and what is the right direction that companies need to take in order to find a profitable and sustainable path forward. And I think what we're starting to realize is that ever since COVID somewhat ended and we are entering into a new norm, a lot of parents are actually shifting their kid back to offline. I think even when we were building edtech in 2022, we always anticipated that there will be a shift back. Originally, we thought that students and parents will get more comfortable to the online side, and therefore there will be a minor shift back. But I think what we have recognized is there has been a very, very drastic shift back. And I think at the end of the day, we have to adjust our strategy and tap this opportunity that offline is still here to stay. The value proposition is still very strong. So it's just about how can we integrate these benefits of edtech together with our offline in order to build an online merge offline model that ultimately is able to create that profitable and sustainable growth story that we want.
Got it. Thank you for the insights into the quickly adapting the business model in order to be sustainable. Now, zeroing in further into that hybrid model, Zhizong, you are in multiple markets in both Singapore and Vietnam, where the two markets are very, very different in terms of like the demographics, and also different in terms of curriculum, and also different in terms of the language. How do you expand in these two? When you think about expanding into a new market, how do you do it in a manner that would be able to achieve a correct outcome?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, because at the end of the day, we right from day one, we have already decided that we do not only want to benefit students from Singapore, which is why when we have the opportunity to expand to a lot of countries, we tested many, and Vietnam, the children are very driven and very talented. Some of the best engineers you can find will be in Vietnam and of course Indonesia as well. The difference is that where Geniebook can add value will be the mathematics and science in English component of how they learn, right? And our value proposition in Vietnam is that we bridge the students to the international opportunities. For example, the GCSE, the IB program that they are looking at, or just simply coming to Singapore, which is the IPSLE or the EIS program. So from that angle, Geniebook has all the right ingredients. We are a Singapore-based company. The founders have been in the education industry for 17 years now, right? And we started with offline, and then we moved online. And we are very familiar with how and what are the fundamentals of an educational organization, not just business, right? The main objective is to make sure that we drive learning outcome for the students, right? Which is why we already have been doing relatively well even before COVID, right? Students have been with us, thousands of students have signed up with us even before COVID, because we have a firm belief that the learning outcomes are the most important thing, right, that an organization like us can provide. And with that is the first level to make sure that we deliver the learning outcomes. And then how do we handle the challenges of the different cultural differences and also the different go-to-market strategy that will be relatively easier to handle when the learning outcomes are very clear in our mind, right? That we are helping the students in that market to bridge them into the local, to bridge them into the international opportunities.
Got it. Now moving to two, you are one of the leaders in the English language preparation in Vietnam. What sort of challenges do you see in the Vietnam market, and how do you how do you adapt to it? Yeah.
Okay. So I actually come from an offline education background. I'm still a teacher, and I've been teaching for like more than 10 years. I teach like writing academic English. And so that's what I did before I founded Prep, right? So throughout the years, I found a very big problem within this sector in my country. It might be similar in other developing countries, which is that the teacher to student ratio is extremely low. Like you have for example, a Chinese Mandarin or an English class with one teacher and about like 40, 50 students in a traditional classroom. That doesn't work, right? Because students would have like no interaction time directly with the teacher, and they cannot improve, right? I give you an example. So the best school might be the only school that teaches students to become future English language teacher in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. Is called ULIS, and they have in their department they have 300 students graduating, 300 teachers graduating from that department every year, and those 300 students would go to universities, to high schools, to language centers, etc. But then everybody, like all education institutions, want to have access to that pool of like 300 like best qualified teachers. They're just not enough, right, for the whole market of the whole population of 100 million people. This is not enough. So I think from that challenge, I think the opportunity for edtech companies would be whatever they implement, they should solve the problem that they can deliver quality education without the need of having to hire too many teachers. They are just not there. The truly qualified ones are not, enough in quantity. So I think that's the problem. So for my company, what we've been trying to do is we don't put the teachers at the front teaching the students directly. Instead, we put them in R&D department so they can develop like materials, they can work with the AI machine learning teams to develop the technologies for the students so that we can serve more students. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. So it might be a little bit different from you because I know that you still operate like offline centers, which I think still makes sense because I come from a like offline education background. So maybe that's the market difference.
Prerna, what about yourself? You also empower the teachers. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what you do?
So India, sorry. I think it's fine now. So India is a very interesting market, which is very demographically different. From one place to another, it is almost like a few hours journey to get to, and interiors of India are not even well connected. Then you can't even imagine about the teachers, because with a population of 180 million students, you have less than 300,000 teachers to teach them. So, and these are qualified teachers. Everybody else is not qualified in India to teach. So that is why, like Tu said, we do a similar thing. We empower the teachers. We train the teachers to go and give quality education. We give them the lesson plans. We give them the AI resources so that they can create effective lesson plans. We give them online learning, classroom learning material. We basically put the entire curriculum in a box and run the curriculum for schools. We do that for over 1,000 schools in India. We have over 10 million children who have gone through the process of early learning with our platform. So definitely the whole approach of one size fits all, which was going on in India, that there's one teacher, classroom has 40, 50 young children, there's zero personalization in learning. Basically, we made education an industrial machine factory. Children were those machine factories which are just coming out of those industrial units. We are trying to make a more personalized experience happen for them, which is more data-driven, more focused on quality and standards, and we ensure that all these schools adhere to those standards.
Got it. I think it's definitely amazing to see how you guys are making teaching more scalable, consistent, and also effective. Now, moving back to the students, I'd like to understand more. How has learning behavior changed as the generation, in the younger generation? And how has buying behavior also changed?
So from my point of view, the kids these days are very independent and they can make decisions. So previously they have to ask their parents a lot, but what I'm seeing here, especially with the ones above the age of, like, say 12, they are very independent in making the purchase decision. So what they do is they go and ask their dad and mom, hey, dad and mom, I find this course here. I want to take this course. And then they ask for money. And the parents would give money to them quite easily. So in the past, it's always the parents who decided, right? But now it's the kids who play a very significant role in decision making. As for their learning behavior, what I notice is the kids these days are under strong influence of social media, right? And it's like learning now has to compete with relaxation and entertainment because they have a limited pool of time. So it's not an easy, it's not easy competition that we have to compete with something that's supposed to be more appealing, you know. So we have to.
How do you navigate those two dynamics, both on the student side and also how they are also more independent in buying?
Right. There are theories about learning motivation, right? So like what you said, what Geniebook did, I think was great because Geniebook gave students what in pedagogy we call that an instrumental reason to study. So they show them if you study well, you're gonna get this and this and that in a very clear manner, and that's a good source of motivation. And also we can make learning more fun. That's what I think every one of us has been trying to do and pursue. Yep.
Zhizong, any thoughts?
So to add on, the learning habits of students have largely, because we've been teaching since 2007.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So I see that largely the habits are relatively the same. It's just that now the content that they consume can come from this tablet. Right? I don't think students are using the phone to really do any serious studying yet. So it's either the tablet, the laptop, or still pen and paper. Right? But one thing that we always emphasize to the team and also to the parents is that we are not here to make, they always say, right, can you make a chocolate-coated broccoli? I think that is a dangerous approach for practitioners or for educators to take, because one day the students will realize that this is not chocolate. Right? This is actually broccoli. So the approach that we have is actually, this is broccoli. It's good for you. It's good for your health. You learn it now or you learn it later, it is good for your health. If you eat more broccoli, it's good for you. Right? So I always tell the team, them that we will never, ever win against the Fortnites, the Minecraft of the world. Right? Their team of getting the kids addicted to the game is larger than our entire company. Right? How do we compete in that space? So the key is to make sure that we will never be taught as a game in the student's perspective, but we can make learning less painful. Right? We can make learning less painful, and that is how then the students will be willing to choose out of all these painful options to get the broccoli, which is the broccoli that is the tastiest.
Prerna, I think you have something to say there.
So why I'm very excited to talk about this, because I have the exact opposite viewpoint on this, right? And the exact opposite viewpoint is that, we've all grown up playing this game hide and seek. Haven't we not?
Yeah.
You know what was hide and seek? It was the way we were hunters in the past. It was a lesson for the children. How do you hide from your prey, and how do you go and attack your prey? We've all heard the songs Ringa Ringa Roses. We've all heard the song London Bridge is Falling Down. These were essentially history lessons packed up in poems for the children to learn. So gamification, to me, has always been a part of our education system for a very long time. And unfortunately, somewhere down the line, we lost the gamification element of education, but it became all about books and papers and rote learning. And to make it interesting for the children, and this is a statistics, children retain 78% of what they see, 12% of what they read, and only 10% of what they hear. So the idea is, if you don't make education visual for children, exciting for children, gamified for children, today's children don't have that kind of motivation to learn anymore. So to approach education from a different angle is very important in my view.
Got it. Evan, any thoughts to this?
Yeah, I think it's hearing from both sides. I'm actually more towards the gamification angle. I think especially when kids are younger, a lot of the motivation is it's a mix of intrinsic and extrinsic, right? But what I think we have seen is that a lot of them are always going to be drawn to what they find the most visually appealing, whatever is the most fun for them. And ultimately, we want to harness this motivation towards the right outcomes and not just limit it to like they're only interested in playing games, but what kind of educational value we're able to provide. So even for our segment that's targeting students between the age of 7 to 12, what we try to do is we try to look at it from a very microscopic level in terms of every single micro decision in the platform. Is it tied back to the children's interests? Is it really motivating and interesting them? And I think ultimately what we're able to discover is that when you add that gamification element to it, students are actually a bit more motivated to learn. So yes, it's true that we are coating a broccoli with chocolate and trying to incentivize them to learn. But I think what we can also see this as is a transitionary process, right? Because right now, given a choice, would you rather, if you are a kid, would you rather play a game or would you rather study? I think the majority of these students who are not as motivated or they are not as well versed in terms of the benefit of and education, right? To them, they are not thinking about their future careers yet. They're still very young in terms of their understanding of the world. So at a very young age, right, they will always say, hey, I just want to do whatever makes me the most happy, whatever is the most fun. But then if we can actually start with that gamified education, and then over time transition towards, we remove a bit of the gamification and move towards more pure educational content, which is actually what we see in the Singapore education system as we go from like primary school to secondary school. And by the time you hit junior college, right, there's no gamification because the motivation is already there. They know that it's high stakes. They have to succeed. So ultimately, I think at a younger age, gamification is very powerful and it still has a very prevalent role to play in terms of motivating kids to want to learn.
Right. So definitely we need to cater the models to the age group and also the motivation. Now, you mentioned earlier about marketing and how startups are spending a lot of money on like marketing unsustainably. How are you doing things differently in your company?
Yeah, so I think drawing back to a previous point, right, that was mentioned by Tu, which is the decision-making behavior of young adults is actually changing quite drastically. So what we are seeing is that most of our students are actually choosing to sign up by themselves. So we actually have very little interaction with parents. Most of the time it's the students coming because of word of mouth or referral. They're coming to us and saying that, hey, I want to come for a trial lesson. And then after the trial lesson, they say, okay, now I'm going to tell my parent that I want to sign up. So I think it's a very interesting kind of behavior whereby it's very different from like the primary school market. I think for the younger kids, it's still going to be the parent that's the main decision maker. But for us, we actually spend probably a third compared to our competitors as a percentage of revenue on marketing, because our word of mouth and our referral systems are just very strong. Because if I think the interesting thing is that in the primary school market, the parent is the one making the decision whether they want to pay, whereas they are not the user themselves. They are just the parent of the user of the product. But then in the secondary school and the pre-university market, the child themselves or the student is the one that is actually not only choosing whether they want to sign up, but at the same time, they are the ones that are experiencing it. And the fact that they are the one experiencing it allows them to be not only users, but advocates to their friends. And I think that has really allowed us to enjoy very, very low marketing costs and allowed us to still maintain very high margins, even though we are still paying our teachers a very, very high compensation.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to move on to another obvious trend is ChatGPT. It has somewhat disrupted the edtech industry. Well, somewhat is an understatement in a big way. But what unobvious opportunity do we see here?
So I think ChatGPT is there and it poses some challenges to us. So from my point of view there, it's okay. So it is not just good enough yet to replace most of the things that we are doing. Even like in technology, it's not that great in education, because in education we need reliability. We need kind of accuracy, right? So in my field, if you write, for example, an essay and you send and ask ChatGPT, hey, can you score this essay out of 100? And ChatGPT can only give a correct answer for like 50-60% of the time, which is nowhere near the accuracy level of a teacher. So in order to be reliable, then we need a lot of domain-specific data, so we can collect the data, the real data from teachers and students, and use that, for example, to train our own models, so we can reach higher level of accuracy. So that's what happened in our case, where we can, for example, mark an essay with an accuracy level of about 95%. So ChatGPT cannot do it, at least for the next, I think, few years or several years.
All right. I think that's the end of our panel. Really interesting to have listened to how you guys have adapted and really uncover some of the unobvious opportunity using technology to make education more engaging and more effective, more consistent and scalable as well.
Smile in 3, 2, 1. Yes, another one. 3, 2, 1.